In my last video I talked about my bike ownership history and how in the past I owned many bikes. I also said that as I get older and my health status has changed, my wants and needs from bicycles are changing too. I discussed if I could use one bike to meet all of my cycling needs. Ironically, in order to reduce the number of bikes I have, I decided to buy a new one. In this video I'll analyze my current bikes, how I might use any new bike, and draw up a specification against which I can buy any new bike or parts. In order to get a good value bike that meets my needs, I decided to build one up from parts. First, let's look at my current bikes and the general situation. I have a carbon fiber road bike, my Giant Defy, and an aluminium framed touring bike. I'm looking for something that will sort of merge those two together and give me the best of both worlds without too many compromises. At the most basic level, I find the handling of my Giant Defy a bit too sporty or twitchy, particularly on the downhills. It doesn't have any mudguard, rack mounts or pack mounts, and the largest tyres it will take are about 26mm section. On the other hand, the bike is light, it fits me well, and it climbs very nicely. My touring bike fits me well, but in all other respects is almost the mirror image of my Giant. I'll examine my wants and needs through use cases. In these short videos I'm only going to be able to give you an overview. Stop the video if you want to read the text. The first use case is based on the activities I do most frequently. Currently I'd use my Giant Defy for these rides, although if the weather's bad I'd revert to my touring bike. In this second use case, the frequency of the rides is lower, but the distances tend to be higher. These rides will be typically outacts and be over less than a 24-hour period. There's more of a focus on carrying stuff and on comfort. My third use case relates to multi-day tours, which typically would only be once or twice a year. There's much more of a focus on carrying stuff, although I do tend to travel light, so large load carrying capacity is not needed, typically 10 to 15 kilograms of luggage and tools. Here are some of the common or generic requirements across all of the use cases. The most important of these relate to the illness I'm recovering from. In particular, my riding position needs to be relatively upright, with the handlebars at or close to the level of the saddle. And I also need a bike that's relatively stable, particularly on the downhills. So I'm aiming for a steering trail of a 55 to 60mm and a longer wheelbase than on my Giant Defy. This should help the stability on the downhills. As well as the two normal bottle cages, I'd like the frame to have plenty of mounts so I can attach day packs and larger luggage direct to the frame. And on longer rides I can suffer from hand numbness. I found the best way to avoid this is to use aero-styled handlebars. Perhaps I should make a separate video on that. You may have guessed that I'm steering towards a gravel bike being best suited to my needs. However, it needs to be compatible with a front gear changer, i.e. not a one-by setup. Finally, as my touring requirements are infrequent, I don't mind reconfiguring the bike. So the bike configuration should be best suited for the first use case or the day ride scenario and adapted to the third use case, that is the multi-day tours. I suppose I ought to talk about my budget. For the entire build I have a maximum budget of £1,500 or about $2,000. Not for the first time I've overestimated what I can fit into a 5-minute video, so I'll stop here. In a future video, I'll look at the items I've selected and see how they match my use cases, requirements, and of course my budget.